What is up, Ham Radio? Kilo Echo 8, Papa Zulu November, the Ham Radio Adventure Guy. Thanks for stopping by, your one stop for everything Adventure Radio. It is Hump Day. That means it's time for the Hump Day Happy Hour. We got a great show tonight. We're going to be talking Winterfield Day, and not just me and Dan and Hayden talking about Winterfield Day. We've actually got the guys that's running Winterfield Day out here, so they're going to be answering questions, and hopefully you guys have a bunch for them, and we're going to hopefully get them some more people signed up for this weekend because it's going to be a great time. I always love Winterfield Day. So welcome, guys.
Winterfield Day is a blast. Thanks for having us.
No problem. Really appreciate you. Thanks for inviting us on this evening and talking about it and really kind of making a last-minute push here for more people getting registered and getting involved in and interested in Winterfield Day.
Good deal, good deal. All right, before we get started, I'm going to give a shout-out really quick to my Patreons because they keep me driving around this country doing parks on the air, and without them, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So thank you guys very much. Also, a big shout out to the YouTube members. They are the people in green in the chat. So thank you guys very much. And last but definitely not least, the Adventure Club. You guys are absolutely awesome. And Josh, Kilo 4 Lima, India, thank you very much for the big off-stream donation. Very, very much appreciated, buddy. All right. I'm excited because, first off, I'm excited because last year on Winterfield Day, it was about 7 degrees and it was super snowy. And let me tell you, it was cold out. And I don't know if you guys know, but last week we got a big, huge snowstorm. And I was like, oh, God, here we go again. But the forecast for this weekend is about 50 degrees, 30 at night. So I'm looking good. So I'm excited. But before we get started, we're going to introduce Marvin and Mike. And, they're going to introduce themselves. And you guys tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into ham radio, and then lead into how that got you into Winterfield Day.
So I'll go first. I appreciate it. Thanks, James. Marvin Turner, W4OPS. Got interested in ham radio back in about 1995 when I was literally in my neighborhood, and the guy had this little handheld. And I said, oh, you got a little CB, huh? He goes, no, it's ham radio. And he kind of showed me how you could key up a local repeater about 45 minutes away. And so he said, I can help you get your testing and get learning ham radio. I said, sure. From there, I think my brother kind of got an interest in that, and we started, doing more and more with it. And, today, it's running, taking over and running Winterfield Day. I run a Ham Radio Guy podcast as well, and part of a local club out here in Massachusetts. And I'll be attending a Winterfield Day event out in the middle of Massachusetts in Natick with the SciTech Amateur Radio Society, I believe it is. So I'll be attending their event out there live on Saturday.
Good deal, good deal.
Well, my name is Mike. W4OPS is my call sign, and my brother drugged me into it. It doesn't matter what it was. My brother drugged me into it. So
I got him in ham radio, and I got him into Winterfield Day. So
being brothers and being competitive, I can't let him do anything that I can't do, right? So he got his license, I had to get my license, And then whenever I saw a Facebook post about the Winterfield Day board saying that they're looking for some fresh guys to come take it over, they're getting up there in age, and they're just like it's a lot of stress, a lot of work. And we're looking for some people to take it over. And I told my brother, he's just like, I want it. Let's do it. So we contacted them and worked out the details. And last year was our first year as a new board of directors. And there are some things that have changed and, things that will continue to change. But we're trying to bring it back to its roots and make it a emergency communications exercise and trying to get rid of that contest mentality everyone has.
Right. So you did mention some changes, and I definitely want to get into that. But first off, just so everybody knows, I'm kind of jealous. Mike is at courtside right now, and he's going to be doing Winterfield Day out there.
That's kind of chilly out here too. Let me tell you.
I've always wanted to go to courtside, and I haven't been yet, so I'm going to have to check it out. But that's where he's at, and What is kind of chilly? Let me make fun
yes,
of you.
Reed, I am in Arizona. So, yeah, that's a Quartz Fest out here in Quartzsite, Arizona, ARL sanctioned event. And just down the road, across the street, is a COFA, which is a Parks on the Air entity, 0177, I think. And that's where I'll be doing Winter Field Day at, in Arizona in the desert.
That's
great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I actually have to go to Arizona later. Well, I don't have to go to Arizona. I'm going to Utah later this year, so I plan on going and hitting several new states while I'm out there doing Parks on the Air. So Arizona will be one of those states that I will hit. So
we should go to Zion, HamCom.
that's where I'm going. That's why I'm going to
Okay.
Utah.
I
Yeah.
am crossing my fingers. I'm hoping to make it out there. So maybe I'll see you. I've never been to the Hamfest before. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, it's brand new. That's the thing. So
Is it fairly new?
yeah, it started a few years back. I think they said, but they're trying to make it a big push at like one of the big shows now. So
Okay.
hopefully it'll be worth my trip out there. But if not, Dakota will, I'm sure. All right, so you want to go over, just in case people are morons and don't know, because I know all my chat do, but just in case, you want to tell them what Winterfield Day is before we start talking about it?
Sure.
Go for it, Marvin.
Yeah. So I always like to read this verbatim because it's one of those things that it's really our mission statement. And I always want to make sure that I get it right and I don't take it lightly for what we do. So Winterfield Day is a communications exercise formatted to help increase your level of preparedness for disasters and improve your operational skills in subpar conditions. Now, I always say that's a lot of words and a lot of what does all that really mean? And when we look at this, we look at this from really kind of an income perspective. And, we don't necessarily want to prepare for just think about the big things of hurricanes, tornadoes, floods. Sometimes these things could even be something on a very local level versus, more widespread. It may be something at your own house. Maybe you're without power. Maybe, trees knocked out your, internet or your power, maybe it knocked out one of your antennas. What can you do to quickly set up and still make a communication with somebody else? We have people I know that when the AT&T building went down at Christmas time in December of like 21 or something like that in Nashville, and they had the bombing in Nashville. It knocked out AT&T for cell phone service and internet service for people across the board. But those who had ham radio actually end up using, like APRS and WinLink and stuff to send messages to family members to let them know that they were still alive, everything was okay. It's just that they didn't have any service through AT&T. So again, it may not be something just more of a flood disaster, but something else could have happened. And that's what helps prepare for you. And when we say preparedness for disasters, it can be very widespread of what that word disaster is. And then just, again, those subpar conditions, your batteries don't last as long as they do in summer versus winter. You only have a limited amount of daylight for solar panels to be able to operate during the day to keep your batteries charged. And so, your conditions are different in different times of the year. So again, those subpar conditions, how does that affect what you do? And we just want to be able to have you think about some of those things and help you prepare for them. And not talking about the zombie apocalypse by any means, but just, how do you take care of yourself or your family when you need to? And so it really becomes more of an income exercise to not just enjoy summer, but to be really put something practical in place.
Yeah, I've kind of gave up on the zombie apocalypse. I was thinking maybe 2020 we was going to get it, but it ended up being toilet paper apocalypse instead. So I was really let down. But
I'm still hoping. I haven't lost hope. I'm still hoping.
I have a list of people that's already marked as zombies, just so you know. But
there you go.
But I agree, and that's what it all boils down to. That's what these events are designed, to help you be prepared for stuff like that. But it's a lot of fun and a lot of camaraderie and stuff like that. I'm in the field every day of my life. I do ham radio in the field. That's what I do. and winter field day and summer field day, I actually do less radio than I do because I'm more going around making sure everybody's okay, making sure they're running good and everything's right with their stations and stuff. I mean, I put my hours in, of course, too, but whereas on a normal day, I might spend, 8-10 hours on the radio, and winter field day, I might spend 6 to 8. I'm down a little bit on that, but it's a great time. So
it's funny, James. I was reading KH6WI's comment. He says field day's 50% potluck, 25% contest, 20% camping, and 5% MCOM. And there's a little bit of truth to what he says because with field day, you have the potluck, you have the the people coming and visiting your site, and you're not on the air, but you're actually talking to them, telling them about ham radio, educating them. So it's not always on the radio talking. There's a lot of other stuff that goes on winter field day, and man, it's busy. It's teaching your and Elmering people and like how to set up antennas, how to set up radios, how to set up networking and stuff like that. It's the big thing with winter field day is we want you to come out of winter field day with two things. We want you to now I got to remember what those two things are. We want it to be a learning experience. And we want you to learn something during winter field day, and we want to increase your confidence. We want you to feel like if something happened and you had to get on the radio and relay messages during a disaster or help fix something during a disaster or something like that, you are more confident in doing so. And those are the two things we want you to come away. We don't care if you make 90,000 points or not. Did you learn something? And are you more confident in your abilities? Because that's what we do. We test our abilities during winter field day. But I just thought you said you never get on the radio, and you're right.
Well, and to add to that was, and as we'll talk about this, we've got rid of bonus points, and some people are upset about that. Other people are going to objectives. Like, that's pretty cool. But like one of the objectives for this year is learning how to go out and set up WinLink on a mobile platform for winter field day, and versus just having it set up with your computer and your radio and everything at home and using your signal link. Can you go out in the field and set up a WinLink station and do it? And I mean, how many even on this channel right now can do that and have that capability or have the tools available to do that?
I'm going to need a crash course between now and Saturday.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you guys have added the objectives and stuff. Tell us how that's going to work.
So one of the biggest changes that we've done so far is the objectives. We had bonus points, which bonus points I felt like really didn't do much. I mean, if you're in first place with 90,000 points and the next person has 50,000 points, your 1,500 points for making a satellite contact's not going to bump you up to first place. So I never thought the bonus points were ever worth enough points to really matter anyway. And a lot of them are objectives to begin with. They're just not called objectives. So we added a few other ones, like operating for over 6 hours, making the WinLink contact, operating on 6 different bands. These are a few of the objectives that we have this year. And those are going to be graded, not scored. I try and get away from the word scored because it's not a contest. But if you think you have 10 objectives, you get 9 of them correct. That's a 90% grade on a grade scale. So we're going to be reporting in our after action report after the event the percentage of objectives that people actually achieve. And that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing is, people out there being like, yeah, I got 70% of them. I did 90% of them. I only did 3% of them, but I'm going to work on this year. So next year I can get, 40 or 50% of them. And I think if you're going to compare yourself year after year on how did I do this year versus how I did last year, instead of looking at the number of points you made, look at how many objectives you accomplished because they will be changing. We're going to throw some, different things in there and try and get creative. But I think the objectives are kind of good direction to go. I'm hoping. We do have pushback, but I'm hoping.
Objectives sound pretty fun to me. That may be what I do most of winter field day is just work on doing the objectives. Although I'm pushing my CW game really hard, so I'm going to do quite a bit of CW for Winter Field Day because it's a different format than what I'm used to. I'm used to the PODA exchange. I'm not when I go out of my rhythm for the PODA exchange, sometimes I get a little lost. So it's going to be a good learning experience for me to do something different in CW, and I look forward to that.
Yeah, I got a
Michael.
NZ. I was just gonna say I got a N3ZN key last year at a Hamcation Hamcation, and I have it out here in Arizona with me. I haven't had a chance to play with it much, but I try and tinker away every now and then. And I mean, 2 or 3 years from now, I might actually have it down. What were you gonna say, Marvin?
You mentioned that working the 6 different bands, and some people may, have questions around that. Is a lot of people just stick with their 20, 40, 80 meter bands, and it's really more about being able to get out and work some of those other bands. We still ask you to stay off the work bands, WARC bands, but there's still think about 6 meters, 220, 2 meters, 440. I mean, there's 4 other bands right there that you can also go out and look at working. So if you threw 20 and 40 in there, heck, you've got 6 bands right there without even trying. I don't remember what the work bands are right offhand. Maybe Dan or Hayden kind of remembers what those are off the top of my head.
17, 12, 15, and something else maybe.
Yeah, something
not
like
sure
that.
off the top of my head.
I can't
But the
even
other
remember.
thing is, I think a lot of people forget that ham radio operators have privileges. Even a technician operator has privileges higher than 440. So we have privileges in the 700-800 megahertz spectrum, 5G, 2G. Now you're getting in things where maybe you're setting up like a Arden or a mesh network and stuff like that. But those are all like super high frequencies that you can make contacts in that are considered a band. So, when you go down into the 20, 40, and 60, and even 80, or if you get really ambitious and want to do 160 out in the field, you get to 7 or 8, 9 different bands pretty easily. So six isn't, out of the question.
No, six should be pretty easy. I'll make sure that objective is done for sure. So what modes are allowed and what modes are not allowed?
Okay, so I had a good question on this. Right now, with the way that everything's written and displayed on the website, you get the multipliers for different modes. People were asking me if you work like single side band and AM on 20 meters, is that considered 2 different modes? But it's not. The modes are actually going to be your digital, phone, and CW. So it doesn't matter if you make an AM, a single sideband contact, and then you go over and make a AM contact, and then go ahead and make an FM contact. That's still, you only worked 1 mode, and that would be voice. So you're not going to get extra multipliers for working the 3 different types of voice. Digital and then CW are the other ones. In both of those, you also have the QRP. A lot of QRP fans out there, and even digital QRP. We've had some questions about that, but make sure if you're working multiple modes, you're not just thinking like, oh, well, I'm going to make a sideband and then go over and make an AM contact, or I'm going to work RTTY and then go work FT or JS8 call and be able to do 2 modes. Those are same mode, different types.
And while we're talking about that a little bit, is there is a lot of people go up, they ask us year after year, and we haven't really gotten too much this year because I think people have kind of started to figure out that, hey, we're not allowing FT4 and we're not allowing FT8, and start to understand why that is really playing into it doesn't work well into MCOM. But I mean, there's still FL Digi and PSK31 and RTTY and JS8 call. I mean, there's still lots of other digital modes out there that people can use. That they can, again, it's another maybe a skill to go learn and figure out. If they don't know how to do FL Digi or PSK31, why not go learn it and figure it out and do modes on it, And now JS8 call by far is probably our most popular Winter Field Day program that's being used, but it doesn't mean it's the only one.
Speaking of programs, so if you're going to be logging your Winter Field Day event and being out there talking, If you're going to be using like N3 FJP or something like that, make sure you guys get online and download the latest N3 FJP software. Same thing, you can use hammers. N1MM is another one that you can use. And KH6W, I will get to the answer to that question here in just a second. But I just want to remind everyone, make sure you guys have the latest and greatest software, because when we look at our stats on the Cabrillo formats, we see people who use, 20 different versions of N3 FJP, going back, 5 or 6 different years. So make sure you have the latest and greatest version of that. The other question that he had about...
Confused about whether you're allowed to spot yourself or not.
There you go. So it is written in our guidelines about, soliciting contacts. It's okay to be like, hey, I'm out here on winter field day. I'm going to be operating on 20 meters come Saturday. Come find me. That's not exactly soliciting a contact. That's just saying that, in my operating procedure, this is the band I'm going to on this day. If I called you up on the phone and said, hey, Marvin, I'm on 20 meters, go to 7200 and see if you can talk to me, that would be soliciting a contact. So we don't want you to solicit contacts before the event. If you want to solicit contacts during the event and say, me and James are sitting here talking on 20 meters and we make a contact, and I'm like, hey, did you see 6 is way open? Let's go up to 6 and see if we can make a contact up there. You're soliciting a contact, but you're doing it over HF the day of the event. And I think that's important because in an emergency situation, you may have QRM, you may have, the bands change, and you have to have a backup frequency, or maybe you're talking on 220 across town to an emergency shelter. Something happens and you got to go to 440. You got to change frequencies during the event, and so you're telling the other guy, hey, I'm going to go to this frequency, go to this frequency with me. That's okay, perfectly acceptable. We want you to practice doing that. Don't be using your cell phone to call up your friends and saying, hey, come talk to me on this frequency. I need 2 more contacts. So there's a couple different ways to look at soliciting events during the contact and via HF. That's fine. We can't control whether or not someone else spots you on the POTA page or on the POTA app. So we've kind of relaxed a little bit about whether or not you spot yourself on the POTA app. Our thoughts are, as soon as you start calling winter field day and they find out you're in a park, someone else is going to spot you anyway. Probably 5 or 6, 10, 20 different times during the afternoon. But as far as spotting yourself on the DX cluster, I can't say. What do you think, Marvin? You're muted, Marvin. I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say it's not allowed.
My wife actually just walked in, so that's why.
Things like this are things that we have to discuss and kind of tie down and get more. But we've kind of relaxed the rules about that because of the Parks on the Air people. Those darn Parks POTA people. They're changing things on us, or we're changing things to accommodate them. But we say, even with the POTA people, if you're going to do it, try and do it over RF. Try and do it contact someone and say, hey, can you spot me in this park? Or, hey, can you spot me on the DX cluster? Or use APRS to spot yourself. That there are ways to do spotting. A reverse beacon is going to pick you up and spot you if you're doing like CW and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's necessarily necessary to spot yourself. And just real quick while I'm talking, one of the, and I challenge this for you, James. James, what antenna do you do when you go do Parks on the Air? What do you use?
95% of the time I use an Eagle One. But okay. The other 5%, it just varies. Like today I used an NFED half wave. I used the Eagle One, most of them, and I used the MFJ 1989 once.
So if you're ever out in the park, do you set up 2 antennas at the same activation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's what one of the objectives this year is, and you'll see my other friend James. He is setting up a doublet antenna out here at Quartzsite. So we're going to try and get on some HF later and do it. But multiple antennas. You can set up a 40-meter in-fed and a 10-meter dipole. That would be two antennas, two different functions. You could set up a 6-meter beam antenna and a 80 through 20 in-fed half wave. That'd be two antennas. So one of our things is can you set up multiple antennas and really achieve that? Even as a one outdoor operator, you should be able to accomplish that objective pretty easily.
Right. Yeah. I'll be with my club, but I myself will have 3 different antennas up for Winterfield Day. I will have my Eagle One up. I will have a dipole up, and then I'll have my 6-meter prototype dipole up too.
I mean, even someone might throw up a roll-up J-pole as a 2-meter antenna. That's another antenna thrown up there. It's just another option. So,
yeah, we always have the roll-up J-pole out when we do club activations up there. Because if people's coming in and stuff, we try to monitor it and help them out. So we've always got 2-meter and stuff ready to go.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned earlier about QRP. Is there some kind of objective for QRP or something?
I don't think there is in this go round.
Okay.
I don't have the rules in front of me, but just to throw this out there, and the problem is, it's not a problem. We have 5 people on the board. I get asked a lot of questions on the Facebook page, what about this? What about this? One of the questions that have come up recently is the WinLink contacts. And say if you make 6 contacts via WinLink, do you log those in your log? And do you submit them with your log as a contact? And maybe one of you guys might know and be able to help us out with this, but when you make a WinLink contact, if I contact Hayden and I say, and he receives the email at 3:00 in the afternoon using his 2 meters, VAR or whatever, and he gets it, and then he sends it back to me, I don't receive that email until 5:00, and I'm using 40 meters. So if he's logging it on 2 meters at one time, I'm logging it on 40 meters at another time. You can't cross-check those. Like, you put that to Logbook of the World, they're not going to line up in the same band or the same time. So I don't think they're necessarily logged in your log. You just say, yes, we made the WinLink contacts, and we made 6 of them. If you want to add who you contacted, you can do that. But to be able to actually put them in your log and log it as a contact in your Cabrillo format that you would send in, I don't know if that cross-checks. So these are questions like this. I mean, this is our 2nd year into it, people. we're still learning.
We had questions last week talk about can someone use a remote station? And that's what we get into the discussion with Ham Radio 2.0. And that was like, we hadn't really thought about that before. So we still have questions coming to us that we're just not quite sure what the answer is or how we deal with that. And it's a learning curve for us. But, if there's somebody out there that knows how to log a contact like that, talking about on WinLink, and they know information, email us directly at wfda@winterfieldday.com and, help us answer that. And we're always willing to, we appreciate that very much. So, in helping us figure these things out as well.
Go ahead, James.
I would think with that, it would depend on what class you were running, because if you're running an outdoor class, and you're remoting into a station that's indoor, you're not really running an outdoor class no more. So I mean that's where a lot of confusion would come in for that.
And my biggest thing was internet. If you guys have a snowstorm in Wisconsin and it's going to knock down internet in half the state, you're not going to have that immediate area to remote in. Now, if someone in New York could use a remote station in South Carolina to talk to you in Wisconsin, but you wouldn't be able to use a remote station because you don't have internet to, get out. there's definitely lots to think about, and it is an interesting subject. But what I was going to tell you is, in the process of changing these things and learning these things, and keeping people on their toes, the QRP, which now you have multipliers to make, but I think a great objective for Winter Field Day would be to contact 10 QRP stations. I think that'd be a great thing. Work 10 QRP stations so you can get adapted to pulling that signal, out of the mud, and being able to, contact those QRP stations. So if we can convince the rest of the board to go with that, that could be an objective in the future.
Right. Well, the reason I asked is because I'm going to have my QRP radio with me, because when I'm not running Whiskey 8 Lima Oscar Golf for the club and not helping out, I still have to activate under my call sign for today because of the Bailey Sprott and because people does the hunt me every day of the year too. So I'll be taking my QRP on up the hill a little ways and doing a PODA activation myself. So that's why I asked, because if so, I was just going to go ahead and run Whiskey 8 Lima Oscar Golf on after I got done with that as well. But
yeah, we get those questions about people operating either different places. Can I start as a one mobile and go one home, or could I start if I'm traveling, do I start in West Texas and I'm driving to East Texas? Does my section change as I'm changing sections and stuff like that? And one of the important things for the logs is to just make sure that whatever you start off with at the beginning of the event is what you use throughout the whole event. That way, when we're looking at the logs, we're like, oh, well, did this guy copy the other guy down wrong, or did the other guy change sections in the middle of his event? We do want to look at that and be like, okay, well, he was one Oscar the whole time, but this guy copied him down as, one home. Clearly he didn't copy the right exchange or something. We do look at little things like that, but we, more important than the contacts and the stuff, the number of contacts you make and the number of objectives that you achieved are the things that we're really looking at on the board, not how many points you got or how many multipliers you got, or things like that.
The other thing is, we're not really the ham radio police either, as I like to say. If someone says, well, we'd like to have you operate in a 1,000-foot circle if you're operating in a club and you're maybe in a park area, but yet you want to be spread out. And we, if you're at 1,200 feet or if you're spread out a little bit farther than that, whatever, we're not coming to hunt you down and go, man, I think you were operating, 1,000 and 201 foot. We're not checking those things out. If we said in the objective that you had to be 500 foot from your home to be considered outdoors, whatever, and you were 350 feet, again, we're not coming to hunt you down and take you out because you were too close or something. One of the things someone had to ask the question today was, well, if I'm in my garage and I'm setting up antennas on the outside, I'm outdoors in my home. And I said, well, really, because you still have the luxuries of being able to use the restroom, go heat up chili, go, whatever, change clothes, you could still be considered home at that point versus really being, considered indoors. When we look at indoors, we think of like church, community center, EOC, those type of places, and not just your external detached garage. So that would still kind of be considered a home per se at that point. So hopefully that helps answer some people with questions that might be wondering, well, I'm going to do this because I was going to go operate in a park, but now the weather's kind of nasty. So I'm just going to operate from my garage. I'll just be one indoors, It's really going to be one home still at that point for people.
So I did have a question for you. So if you're you're an outdoor station, and then somebody shows up and they've got a mobile motorhome, they're technically a mobile station, correct?
Well, that's one of those other convoluted questions that we get, because it may have, hey, we're an EOC, but yet there's two people able to camp, two tents outside, so they can be outdoors. We're considered indoors, and how does that work? And we just, if you got, we've got my prior Stones River in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So prior, they'd have somebody show up with a motorhome or two, or a camper of some sort, and everybody else was kind of out in the tent, and we just consider ourselves like, more outdoors versus using the mobile standpoint of it. So if you had, just kind of use your best judgment on that. There's no, as me and Michael were discussing today, these aren't really hard and fast, knock down rule, beat you down type things. These are more just guidelines, and use your best judgment on them. If you're outdoors versus mobile, it's not going to make a huge difference overall. We still want to be able to have the category to kind of break it out, but we want you to try and use that best judgment too, because if you got 2 tents and two mobile trailers or campers, what do you do? Do you mobile or do you do outdoors? Just so whatever you want to go with.
When we took over Winter Field Day, and ran the event last year, we promised the previous board of directors 2 things. Number one, we would keep FT8 out of it because they were very adamant about FT8. And 2, we would stay true to its roots. Like, it would be an emergency communications event. And, looking at it, it looks more like a contest than an emergency communications event. So we're trying to get back to the roots of it. If you look on the website, it doesn't say rules, they're guidelines. It's more of a standard operating procedures, like an agreement you would have with an ARES group or your EOC about, what you would do in an emergency. So we're not saying it's 1,000 feet and you have to be within this 1,000 feet. And if you're not within this 1,000 feet, you're disqualified. All of these things are guidelines to help the event run smoothly, because if we didn't have them, that day would probably be just like chaotic. We have to have the exchange so that people have, the proper format to send back and forth. We have to set up certain guidelines and objectives so that, everyone's on the same page during the event. But we're trying to get back to this is a communications and emergency communications. And within that spirit of like, hey, I'm trying to help myself be a better operator. I'm trying to learn something. When you get a situation where, everyone in the club is showing up in RVs, but you have these 2 people who are showing up in, gazelles. Hello. And they're in these tents, operating outdoors. What does the club operate on? Outdoor, because there's 2 people doing it, or, indoor. And if the majority of the people are mobile, go with mobile. If the majority of people are outdoor and one guy just can't hack it, he shows up in his, RV or his cargo trailer camper, and he wants to, sit in there in the heat, even though he's inside, if he's operating with, 10 other people and those 10 other people are outdoor, go outdoor. It's really the spirit of the event more than, hardcore, oh, the rules say this, and, we have these exceptions. What do we do? They're guidelines.
And it is an emergency preparedness event. So one thing I would say, and even though indoor is allowed, I suggest to everybody that if you've never done it, go outdoors and do it. Try to do this. Like you were going down the highway and and something happened and you had to hit the woods and do this. Go set up like a true emergency and see what it's like.
It is called field day for a reason.
I mean, you may just like it, and some people are like, well, it's cold. Well, here's the thing. I've been outdoors activating for about 2.5 years every day now. Rain, snow, COVID, whatever. I've been out there activating. So you can suck it up and do this stuff. There's ways to stay warm outside. I promise you.
Absolutely.
Just try it. You'll probably love it.
One of the things you're going to find interesting, I've got some current stats from last year, and what we found was home was one of the most popular categories, with an average user working about 4.4 hours. And so if that was our most popular category, we need to find ways to get people more outdoors, and we want them to be outdoors. And maybe it is mobile. Maybe you're putting yourself in a mobile trailer, mobile camper, whatever it might be. But trying to get more of the outdoors enthusiasm, going to a park, getting outside of your normal working conditions of your ham shack at home. And I understand there's elderly people out there and stuff, and they may not be able to get it move around, have mobility issues or disabilities, it may not be able to move around quite as well. So we can definitely keep that home section category in there for that reason. But for those who are certainly capable and able, we'd love to be able to see, that being less home and making outdoors more of a more popular category overall.
So James, when you asked earlier, like, what is Winter Field Day, Marvin, reads off the paragraph that I wrote about, what it is, but there's really kind of something that we leave out. And if you look over the history of Winter Field Day, you'll see three core principles there. And those principles are natural disasters are unpredictable and can strike when you least expect them. It could be raining outside and, a tornado wipes your house away and now you're at a church parking lot operating. It could be the middle of winter. It could be at 2 a.m. in the morning. You want to challenge yourself with Winter Field Day. It's not supposed to be cozy. Set your alarm at 3 a.m. At 3 a.m., get up and go out, turn on your radio and operate, So that's one core principle. The other one is, your training and operating skills should not be limited to fair weather events. That goes along with it. If you're always training when it's 70 and 70, you're not going to have the stuff in your backpack that you're going to need for when it's cloudy and, 30. The last one is preparedness is the key to professional and timely response. If you're practiced doing this and the crap hits the fan, we finally get that a zombie apocalypse like we're hoping for, James. If that time comes, we're prepared because we've done this before. We've been there, done that. And you got to be able to get out of the house and try it, or you're not going to be able to do it when you need to do it. And I think those three core principles are things that I go back and look at every year whenever I read whenever I revise everything in the guidelines. The other thing, Marvin gave us out the email, wfda@winterfieldday.com is our email. At the end of the event, when you submit your log, there's a place in the confirmation email that says, hey, add your comments here. We'd love to hear your comments and feedback. We read every single email, every single comment, every single Facebook post. I spend hours reading your Facebook posts. I get tagged on Facebook posts. I'll go back and I'll reread every comment on this live stream. I did it on Ham Radio 2.0s. Like every single comment I read and I analyze and I look at. And I copy and paste them into a document and I send them to the rest of the board. And I'm like, I'm making this argument and this is why I'm arguing we should do this because I get all these comments. So, we love your comments and feedback. Shoot us an email. Let us know what you think about the objectives, questions you have about home, mobile, operating antennas, wind link contacts, any of that stuff. We'll take it, throw it at us because, this is a learning experience for us too. And we're just trying to create a better and better event each and every year. So things will change.
Yep. The other thing, we do have social media out there. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook,
Discord.
as he mentioned, and then Discord. And you can find our Discord on our website, and you can join in on that. And one of the things we're asking a lot this year, some of the certificate you'll see coming out this year has a person's a Winter Field Day photo on there.
Yeah.
So we've used some of those photos. We're looking at updating some photos on our website. So we're interested in some great photos to use of yours for our updated website for next year. And we'd love to see some great Winter Field Day setups. So if you have them out there, throw them out to us on our email, send them on our Discord channel, go join that, add them to it. And we'd love to see that. Hayden posted that in the chat. Thank you for doing that, sir. So that would be great to be able to have those as we try to do our updates on our websites. And we just love to see what some of the great setups are out there and be able to share them with other people. Go, man, that'd be really cool. I think I'd never thought about that before. How about I set up that type of tent or do this next year or something for my site? So, people have chili cook-offs. It's all kinds of stuff that people end up doing for Winter Field Day. And one of the most important things, and it probably should be a fourth objective and core principle, is we want people to have fun. We want people to really enjoy it and learn something from it and walk away with a good time overall and enjoy the ham radio. That's part of just being the hobby and having the fun itself.
Absolutely.
This is a Ham Radio Adventure Guy exclusive, so we haven't released this to the public yet, and I don't know how it's going to come over. But like Marvin said, the certificate, we did the certificate program starting last year, because who doesn't like wallpaper, right? That's why you have 80,000 people who chase 13 colonies, right? You want the wallpaper. So we started this certificate of participation. And if this works, if this can pull up here, this is this year's certificate right there. So this photo was submitted to us, and we designed around this photo that was given to us. And this is going to be the certificate of participation that you can download this year for Winter Field Day 2024. So if you didn't start your collection last year, make sure you start your collection this year. And once you submit, again, you get that email where you can leave the comments. In that email is also a link where you can download your certificate of participation. So this is cool. The general public hasn't seen that yet. So this is what it's going to be right there.
There you go.
All right, now you guys mentioned at the beginning about people signing up and stuff like that. Is there something people need to do before this weekend, or?
So we have what we kind of asked people to go out and do is go to our website, and it looks like it's back up and running again now. We had the submit your location button, register your location or club button was missing, but we've updated that now, and it was kind of at the top of the page. You have to scroll down to the location map to be able to get it. We'll try and get it back on the top again for a quick link. But right now we've got 947. We had like 850 or something like that just a day ago. So I kind of reached out to Twitter the other day and said, hey, we've got like 800 and some sites. We're trying to beat our record of last year of 1,271. So if you're out there and you haven't registered for your Winter Field Day site yet, we're just trying to increase our ability of seeing who's out there. And if people want to come visit your local site, you have an option of making it private if you want to. But if you want to make it public and have people come visit, or somebody else is interested in ham radio, they all of a sudden heard about this watching your video on Friday night and going, well, I don't know anybody locally that's hosting a Winter Field Day event. They can go out to our website, they can find something close to them, and they can go there on Saturday or Sunday and visit. But go out to winterfieldday.com and scroll about halfway down the page, and you can go to our map, and you can kind of see the different sites that are on there, register your location, and, it will send you an email showing that, yes, you did get a confirmation of showing that was submitted. We go through it. If it was from a club standpoint, we go through and approve that, make sure we get all the details in there. And the locations are correct. That button was kind of missing prior just to this broadcast here, this show, but we got that fixed now. We have a few people showing up in China, and what people forget is the longitude and latitude. They forget to put that minus in front of the second one, whichever one. I don't remember which one it was, but
I think it's the latitude. But
I think it's the latitude.
Yeah. If you're make sure
if you end up in China, we'll fix it. We'll get you squared away. But we want you to show your site properly then. And so if you can get your site registered ahead of time, we'd greatly appreciate it. And it kind of matches up when you go to submit your log too. You'll show up in that list pretty easy. And Michael, you want to talk about the parks and being added for submission?
Yeah. You know what? And speaking of parks and speaking of POTA, give you a shout out to Curtis. Curtis is my brother from another mother. We share the same last name. We're not really related, but a shout out to Curtis. I see Curtis in the chat, KB3CMT. So always good to talk to him and see him at Hamfest and hear
Absolutely.
him on the air. Real popular. So Parks on the Air. Tons of people are going to be doing Winter Field Day from parks. It's a given. We are collecting more data this year than ever before. We have an amazing web designer. Andrew does all of our web design. He does all the back end. He does the maps. He does the submission page. In the past, we've asked you to submit a Cabrillo format log. And, people who don't understand what Cabrillo format is or how to do that, they get confused and they don't even submit a log, even though they participate. We are trying to make it easier than ever. You can now export, and I'm saying this, so Andrew, when you watch this, don't make me a liar, but we are getting it set up so that you can upload an ADIF file onto our submission page, and you don't have to worry about the Cabrillo format. You don't have to worry about the soapbox and all the other details and all that stuff. Go to Hammers, do Winter Field Day in a park, do N3FGP, do Winter Field Day in a park, export an ADIF, upload it to our website. and it's just going to be that easy to do. A lot of people on the POTA page are like, how do I, add the park to parks, and how do I add that? But the beautiful thing is the park system and the POTA system, they have all that written in. So if your park is not in the ADIF file, you enter it when you're uploading your log. You don't have to worry about logging the park to parks, because their backend says, hey, this guy was in this park, this guy was in this park. They talk to each other, and they log it as a park to park. You don't necessarily have to record that other park in the ADIF file. So people are trying to overcomplicate this process of like, oh, well, now I have to take this, I have to export it in the ADIF master, I have to add the parks in there and do all this other stuff. It's really, use the winter field day template, export your log, upload it to winter field day, go to POTA, upload it to POTA. One of the questions we are asking is, did you activate a park during winter field day? And if so, what is the park number? And once you start entering the number, it will come down with the list of parks, and it will pre-populate that for you, and you can enter it. This is a statistic that we've never tracked before. And this year we should be able to say, out of the 2,000 log submissions, 1,200 of them were from people in parks. And we're really glad to be able to use statistics like that. Statistics like that to us are a lot more valuable than, we had 2,000 participants and 50% of them, had over 50,000 points. Okay. Doesn't tell me anything. Were they operating on multiple bands? How did they get those points? So we are tracking more things than ever before, and I'm super excited about that. So if you activate a park into your, yes, Peter, that's the goal. Don't worry about the Cabrillo format. If you want to do the Cabrillo format, if you're one of those hardcore contesters who just has it down on how to do that and how to make that easy, go for it. If you're one of these parks people who just don't like contests, that's okay. Still submit your log. I think last year, man, I sent out a lot of emails to people that said, hey, you were popular on Winter Field Day because your name showed up in 500 logs, but you didn't submit one. What the heck? Like, why aren't you submitting a log?
We did.
If you tried and it didn't work, if you find it too complicated, tell me, let me know, because I can use that feedback. So really, there's no reason not to submit a log if you participate in Winter Field Day. We're trying to make it easier than ever, but we do want to track that data. So make sure you enter your park number in there. And for those of you who do, on the certificate, there's a place where it says it will show up on your certificate. So if you didn't work a park, you get one version of the certificate. If you did work a park and you enter that information, when you download your certificate, it will say from entity, whatever, and have the name of the entity. So we kind of have that special certificate for the POTA people.
See, now you done messed me up. See, now not only am I doing Winter Field Day with my club, but when I'm doing my activation now, I'm actually going to do Winter Field Day for myself and do a log just so I can get that certificate with the park number.
Absolutely, that's what we're
yes.
for. So.
You want your name on that certificate, man. It's wallpaper.
That's right.
This is why he is the creative services manager for Winter Field Day, because he comes up with these different things. He's got the creativity for the logs, and Michael does a great job overall. And I always like to give him praise for the amount of work he does on the Winter Field Day on the back end to help make some of these guidelines and get some of this squared away. We all make those decisions as a board, but he does a lot on the back end with Andrew to help out and think about some of these things. So I want to say thank you to Michael for all the work that he does on Winter Field Day as well. He does.
And James, it's not hard. I listen to people. Like I said, I read the comments and I listen to people and I observe. So, I like participating in 13 colonies. I like the pileups. I like trying to bust through the pileups and stuff like that. And I hear the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are participating that whole entire week. Museum ships weekend. It's the same thing. People chase those museum ships. They like getting the QSL cards from them. And I look at these things. I'm like, okay, well, how can we increase our numbers and how can we get people to participate? Give them something that they can want and display. a first place on a website leaderboard is one thing, but give them certificates, something that they can use, and make it easy. Make it easy for them to submit that entry, and or go to that website, enter their call sign, and get that certificate. So it's not hard, but we'll see how it goes. Like I said, the hardcore contesters are going to look at Winter Field Day and be like, "Oh, dude, it's just going, down the tube. They're taking this." But the other people who've never participated in Winter Field Day before, now is a better time than ever to actually go out there and try it. And if you've ever been intimidated by like, "Oh, I don't know about pileups or contesting, or my CW is not fast enough," it's not about making 20 contacts an hour or 30, 50 contacts an hour. It's about achieving these objectives and submitting it and getting the certificate. It's easier than ever to participate in Winter Field Day.
I just want to put two more comments out there real quick, James. Is that one KO4NLL? Don't put the POTA logo on it. We can't put the POTA logo on it because POTA says we can't. It's very exclusive to them. We haven't really tied into with them on that yet. We have good close ties with them, but the use of the logo is very kind of strict in what we can do. So that we have kind of another parks emblem we're using for that. And there's something else Michael mentioned, but
So this is where I plug myself. I have to come down here and plug myself for at least a second. And me and Marvin were talking about this earlier, and I am the largest creator of POTA merchandise there is. If you've ever purchased anything from Club Gear online, and a lot of people don't know this, I actually own a POTAgear.com. So you can just go to like POTAgear.com and it redirects to my website. But I do the mouse pads and the desk mats and the ham radio reference bands and the stickers and the shirts. And there's so much stuff that I do with Club Gear Online. So I have a pretty good relationship with Jason from POTA. And I've been trying to get that logo. And because they're not Winter Field Day, they're having a hard time releasing it, which it makes sense. But we're trying to get permission from, the POTA board of directors to use their logo on our certificate. So that's a work in progress. Maybe someday they'll let me. I keep getting on to Jason whenever I hear him. We're going to be at Hamcation down in Orlando here coming up soon. Marvin's going to be down there doing some Winter Field Day stuff as well. Handing out some stickers. If you see him walking around, tell him you want a sticker from him. He'll get you a sticker, even though it will be after the event. I'll be down there at the Parks on the Air table with Club Gear Online and all my swag that I have for Parks on the Air stuff too. So that's my self promo, people.
Absolutely.
Go buy stuff.
I was going to let you guys both promo yourself anyway, but we are going to start wrapping up. So if you guys have questions, make sure and put them in the chat. I did want to touch on a couple of things. So
what you got? If
you are thinking, if you're doing Winter Field Day and you've not yet signed up, go over to the webpage and sign up. Let's absolutely just shatter his last year's goals. Let's just totally tear them apart now. Everybody go sign up if you're doing Winter Field Day over there, and let's just crush that. Number 2, if you are a POTA hunter and you are worried about activating, you've always worried about activating, this is your shot. This is your chance to learn without even activate. Go out to one of these local clubs and sit down with somebody who's used to running these pileups at contests and run the radio with them. That they're sitting there guiding you, and before you know it, you can run a POTA pileup too. It's a great experience. Just like if your CW is not that great, ask one of the guys who's an experienced CW and say, will you sit down here with me and help me make sure I'm decoding this right? And they will, and you're gonna help yourself in your ham radio career just by going to an event like this. And
one of the comments I read the other day, or somebody was saying to me, is that our club was formed because of Winter Field Day. We had a bunch of guys that got together and started just wanting to operate Winter Field Day, and they decided to form a club out of it. So that was an email that came to us, in fact. And so, a lot of good things happen because of things like this. And so, it's good to think about. And like I said, if you don't know where your local site is, go out to our website and you can find something and find some other, amateur radio enthusiasts that would love to help you, kind of do what James was talking about, get on the air and figure those pileups.
Absolutely. And bring your kids out. Get your kids interested in radio while they're young. I'm telling you right now, the youth is the future, guys. So let's get them in this.
For sure. Absolutely.
The great thing about Winter Field Days not being a contest is you can slow it down a little bit. It doesn't have to be like, KB3, GRG, your 5-9 Ohio, later, and then call the next person. Back in the day when Field Day started, they used to exchange temperature data, like what's the temperature at your location. So we're kind of going back to, because we're not concerned about the points and we're not concerned about, whether or not you make 500 contacts versus 1,000 contacts. It's okay to bring out the kids and be like, hey, this is what you do. We don't have the official get on the air station like, Summer Field Day does. But, if you're sitting there, and I'll do this during PODA, if I'm sitting there, even if there's a pileup, someone calls and says that they're from Tennessee, I'll be like, oh, what part of Tennessee? I used to live in Murfreesboro, or what part of California? I used to live out there, in Riverside. And, I'll actually have a conversation. And, dude, we're ham radio operators. We like to talk. It's okay to have a little bit of a conversation on the radio. So
absolutely,
you don't have to be like, 595959 and just, go on to the next one. If you hear a kid's voice on the air, it's okay to stop and say like, hey, where are you from? What's the weather like there? Is it cloudy? And actually exchange, hey, it's, I'm sitting here and there's 6 inches of snow over here on the ground beside me. I'm jealous of you being down there in, East Texas today. It's okay to have that conversation during Winter Field Day. And we encourage it. So don't think it's all about like rush. Slow down a little bit, people. We're more concerned about you getting the information correct, because that's what you're going to need in an emergency. If you're copying down a list of items or something like that, you need to have accurate information. So if you're trying to pull that QRP station out of the mud and it takes you 5 minutes to do that, relax. It's okay. It takes you 5 minutes to do that. So like I said, it's better than ever to be, it's a better time to be doing Winter Field Day this year than any other year out there, because there's just so many cool things that are happening this year. It's going to be a busy day, but it's going to be so much fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm stoked.
Absolutely, we are, for sure.
I am as well. All right, we are going to wrap it up now, guys. You got anything else to say about Winter Field Day?
I don't read in the comments. That's it. I don't have anything else. In fact, we're not going to wait till Winter Field Day. We're going to go play some HF out here in the desert in Quartzsite. You guys saw the absolutely beautiful sunset behind me. You guys can be jealous for sure. The temperature did drop, a little chilly out here now, but we're going to get through it, and it's going to be a great time out here in Quartzsite, out here in Arizona too.
All right. Well, you've already plugged yourself, so now I'm going to let Marvin plug himself. Marvin actually has a podcast, and tell us about that before we go, Marvin.
Yeah, very good. Well, first of all, just saying thanks, James, for allowing us as Winter Field Day organization to come on to Ham Radio Adventure Guy here kind of last minute and make a last minute plug for Winter Field Day as we go forth, because that's obviously the most important. But yeah, I also run a podcast as the Ham Radio Guy, very close in nature. But my podcast airs about every 2 weeks. You can find me on all the major platforms for Spotify and Apple Podcast. And I also, you can go out and sign up for my newsletter. You can find me on Twitter. I've got a website called The Ham Radio Guy as well. And so my latest podcast is talking with American Filament about 3D printers. So, as we print more and more things for 3D printing for ham radio, for masts and guide wires, things like that. Antenna, toppers of antennas to mount an antenna, a wire to. There's more and more things coming around all the time. So we certainly, we'll find our realm into that. But I also did a 3-part, which is probably my biggest 3 episodes ever. I did a thing last fall on Income, and those are my most followed podcasts. So if you haven't listened to those yet, go out and check that out. And I really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for putting the MailChimp newsletter in there. You got that perfect. So anyway, very good. And again, air that about every 2 weeks. A new episode's coming out, and a new newsletter will be going out. I think tomorrow as well. So.
And I did answer that question. I'm actually a Destination Unknown on YouTube with my whole 700 subscribers. Woohoo! And I special. But I did answer that question, Peter. Yeah, you do still get the points if you enter as the ADIF. So, because back with the Bruo format, that's when we were doing all kinds of cross-checking. You'd get penalized if you had a broken contact or something like that. But, with the new format that we're moving towards, you're still going to get those points for the ADIF file. So I got you there.
And just for fun, if you go over and check out Marvin's podcast and you find the podcast with me in it, the very first person who emails me and tells me what park we're at gets a sticker back. Only the first person.
There you go.
There we go. All right, guys.
Did you get an episode number?
No, they got to search this podcast.
We're not searching. Go find it. I'd love it.
We're gonna get him some. We're gonna get him some views and likes and stuff.
Hey James, I'll send you a ham radio guy and a Winter Field Day sticker both.
There we go.
I'm looking right now.
We'll throw that in there. So
that sounds great. All right, guys, we're heading over to After Chat in Discord. If you're not a Patreon and you'd like to be a part of the After Chat, you can go over Patreon and try it free for 7 days if you sign up for the top activator. You still got to tell me what park, Hayden. You still got to find it.
Oh, I'll look for it. I'll find it in about 5 minutes.
But other than that, thanks everybody for hanging out with us tonight, and go sign up for Winter Field Day. 73, everybody.
Right, 73, everyone. Have a
7-3. Winter Field Day on.